Bases dropped on a reaction Monday in a no dilly, no dally zone. We bring in Abe Gordon, batting leadoff. He's always our Ricky Henderson here, where we go through everything going on in his world. The man was vacationing and dealing with Atlanta United. He has a story, and he started to get into it. I was like, wait. I want to hear the story. Let's do it for everybody. So, okay, please proceed from the beginning, even though I didn't, we kind of started, but I want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, so look, I was at the Florida-Georgia game down in Jacksonville, and obviously that game got off to a little bit of a late start, about 3:50, and so it was sliding. The back end of this game was sliding into the start of Atlanta United. So I pulled up Apple on my phone, and I start watching it as we're leaving the stadium. I'm watching it as we're on the bus. I obviously see what happens to give Miami their opening goal, which I'm sure we'll talk about that. But the game was carrying itself on. I saw the Derek Williams goal, and we got to talk about Pedro Amador too, because we just, I don't know how many times we have to keep discussing what he's brought to this team, but I'm glad to keep discussing it.
Yes.
But we finally get to where we're staying in Jacksonville. A friend of my father's, and run out to Publix to grab a couple quick sandwiches. I watched the game on my phone in Publix, and I finally get back. And I put the phone in my pocket as I go to open the door and get the sandwiches set up to have a little dinner. And I pull the phone back out, and it's 2-1, and it's over. And I thought I had time. I mean, you're 93. You're 3 minutes into stoppage time or whatever the number was. I thought I had time to just put it in my pocket for a quick second, get everything set up, and I'd be able to watch a penalty shootout to decide Atlanta United's future. But I pull it back out, and I just see people celebrating. I'm like, what happened? What did I miss? So I had to use the rewind function and go back through it and see, really, honestly, one of the better team goals, quick passes without a lot of space. And I know you created some space, but when you really think where those last 4 or 5 passes came, you're really in about a 20-yard box. And so I had to go rewatch that goal, and it was an outstanding goal. And like you mentioned, you knew how many people were at the Benz that night. And to go from what you were I think almost everyone was expecting to see this game out and head to PKs, and then the late switch to, oh my goodness, we just won this thing. I mean, you can speak to it more than I can, but I know that building exploded. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and I think it was a little bit more. Let's see, how do I phrase it? It was a little more heavily reactionary than "oh my goodness." I mean, you could have gone ahead and just earned us the explicit rating, out of the blocks. I wouldn't have minded. It's a Monday. All right, so we'll go from the beginning and work our way forward. Highly competitive first, 20 minutes or so. Each team had they had like an idea. There was the Luis Abram header that came off of the corner that goes off of a head and a shoulder. The first real chance for Atlanta United. And then it was just one of those shocking moments it's like with Brad and the first goal that was put in by Miami. You're sitting there going, what the blank happened here? I mean, it was just, and you had to almost kind of look at the tape and go 3 or 4 times to figure out what exactly went down for Atlanta United to go down a goal early.
Well, a couple of things. We'll go backwards, I guess, because sure. The Goose goal happens. We'll talk about in a moment. The frustrating part about that goal, obviously the goal itself and how it came out is frustrating. But what might have been most frustrating is that you were the better team leading up to that goal. And in that moment, you have outplayed Inter Miami, in my opinion, by quite a margin, and now find yourself trailing. And you have to deal with that. And that's what was like most frustrating, to be honest, about what had happened. It was one of those things, kind of like when TRA scored at the end of the goal, at the end of the game a month or 2 months ago, to win it for Atlanta United. It's one of those things it's an innocuous play, right? You put your head down, you assume the ball's going to get punted. You look back up and they've got the ball. Goose is out of position and it's a chip for a goal. And you're like, what happened? And my first instinct was, because I saw how Goose was reacting. So I thought maybe they had actually knocked the ball away from him as he was getting set to play a long ball. But that wasn't the case. It's completely on him. There is zero argument in any manner to have that goal reversed. There just wasn't one. It was a mental mistake, and maybe peripheral vision got the better of him. Whatever it was, there was no argument for it to be overturned. It was fair play, and just not the kind of mistake you normally see from Goose. And you know, a little bit of concern. He spilled one a couple of weeks ago. That's not necessarily a traditional goal you see him allow. This one certainly wasn't great. But look, Atlanta United picked it right back up and found a way in the second half. And that's what is really important here. But it's just one of those things. You put your head down for a second and it's like, oh my, Miami has the ball and they're going to score a goal. And now we have to deal with this despite being the better team. And so frustrating. I mean, just incredibly frustrating. And there have been other games where we felt Atlanta United has outplayed their opponents and had nothing to show for it. To, you know, on Saturday night, you had more than, nothing to show for it. You were actually trailing in that moment. But I will say this for the score itself, another instance where Atlanta United got off to a quick start. And I think that has been very important for them. Even if it hasn't necessarily resulted in goals, that sometimes they've conceded very quickly, including last time in Miami, but they have gotten off to better starts. I think that gives you a little bit of hope, a little bit of promise going into this final one in Miami, along with just in general how you performed against them compared to how the entire rest of the league has performed against them.
Yeah, you mentioned the first half. You had the Abram attempt off the corner. You had the shot, I want to say, in the 25th. That there was the through ball with Jamal. It goes through, and it was like maybe a half step ahead of Jamal trying to work its way forward. Then I think there was a shot by Miranchuk, I want to say, in the 25th or shortly thereafter, something like that. So you're down at the break, come back through. Set pieces have been where Atlanta United have been taking advantage. One of the areas where Atlanta United has been taking advantage of that back line for Inter Miami. And I did not have Derek Williams on my bingo card. I did not have him on my bingo card to score the equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, look, you talk about what's been most surprising. I mean, Pedro Amador with another assist. Maybe that's the least surprising aspect of the goals that are being scored right now. You wouldn't have said that a month and a half ago, but here we are. And yeah, look, we've seen during this stretch run, and it's not just in the playoffs. It was the 2 games before the playoffs as well. I mean, obviously you do somewhat expect and hope that Stian can get in there and get a header, but he had one. You don't expect Brooks Lennon realistically to be winning headers. He's the one that should be serving up headers. But a couple games ago, he had one. I think we've seen a number of times over the course of the season, goals have come from unexpected players. And this is just Derek Williams' moment. And he's been so good in the back. We really don't talk about him a lot. In that ideal worlds, you're really not like dressing down your center backs all that much. But he has been such an integral part of this team. And we really didn't know a ton about him to start the year, right? We didn't even know if he was going to be the starter. And to some people, maybe it was a little bit of a surprise that he got the opening day gig alongside Stian Gregerson, and some injuries at the time hampered what he could do. But make no mistake, he has been a steady rock back there in front of Goose, along with Stian. And to see him get forward, to see him have a couple of moments like that one, important, obviously, just for the situation in the game, and you needed to win. And so, like, obviously that moment, but nice for him to kind of get that as well, just on a more personal level. He's always been so gracious with the media and discussing what's going on with the team. And so he's certainly, if not a fan favorite, at least a media favorite, I believe. But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show you, and we saw it in the World Series, and you see it in pretty much every postseason. You just don't know who's going to step up and have a moment or be a hero. And even on the second goal, I mean, yeah, we've been asking Xande Silva and Alexei Miranchuk too, but those moments haven't come. And when you needed it most at the very end, Miranchuk has a perfect pass, probably his second or third best pass as a member of Atlanta United, I think you could argue. And Silva has had plenty of opportunities to score, hasn't necessarily done it, but certainly in this moment, it came for him. So a lot of people stepping up in big moments for Atlanta United. And I mean, look, it was lose and you're out. So
Yeah.
there's no bigger opportunity, no bigger moment to kind of leave your mark on the season than there was Saturday night, trailing 1-0.
Yeah, and you get to your point. The way the lineup was, it was 3-5-2 ish that would change. You turn the dial on the stereo receiver. You turn the volume knob a little bit. Somebody goes forward, somebody rolls back. Back three: Luis Abram, Derek Williams, Ronald Hernandez. And I don't think we can say enough about what Ronald Hernandez has been doing when he has been healthy and he has been put into the lineup. You had Saba in a right back position, where he could work his way up and down and run his 9 miles per match and do what he was. So you turn the dial, Saba goes forward, then you would have Pedro turn into his normal left back position. Then it would be Hawkeye, for lack of a better nickname, and I credit the Atlanta United social media team for giving Amador the Hawkeye nickname for his archery skill. Amador, Abram, Derek Williams, and Ronald Hernandez, when you turn the dial and Saba goes forward. Then when you need Saba to come back defensively, everything turns into a back five. Then so that was frustrating, and I'll go into the numbers later on. You didn't see a whole lot from number 10. You didn't see a whole lot from the Gulfstream Galacticos in this match, and it was great with Matt Lowry, who told them, don't let them get to the penalty spot on the cutback. Frustrating day for Inter Miami offensively because of what the preparation was for Atlanta United.
Well, look, so much of this is born and bred by the abilities of your attacking players to get back and defend. And no one, you don't want to highlight anyone more than you do Saba in those regards. And I know Bartek Sleesh runs his behind off as well, and he tries to get involved in the attack as well. But when you see a guy like Saba who is, look, he's here to create and provide opportunities up top and score goals. But when you see him putting it on the line, putting his legs on the line for this team to get back and defend, and like you said, I don't know if he's always necessarily the guy who's run the most. And I'm not trying to take away from anyone else on Atlanta United, but he does always look like he's the guy that's working the hardest. And I think that is an important factor in what you're trying to do, especially when you do lose the leadership of a guy like Brooks Lennon on the right side. I mean, look, there's not a lot of teams that have a Ronald Hernandez that if you need him on the left can play left. If you need him in the midfield, can be midfield or a center back or right. I mean, a lot of guys don't have him. So it's important just from that aspect. But man, like Saba's desire to just kind of do whatever it takes for this team, like whatever he is asked of him. If you want him to play up top as a 9, fine. If you want him on the right, fine. If you have someone else on the right and you need him to switch to the left, fine. In the flow of the game, you often find him on that left side. And I know he and Pedro Amador have kind of quietly developed a little something. And so that might be a reason why you see him sliding left a little bit more. It's just he's all over the place. He really is. And I think the teammates see that as well. And I think especially some of the younger guys, some of the guys who maybe haven't been with Atlanta United for as long that have come in on transfers or purchases see that and kind of buy in a little bit as well. And so it starts with him. But look, it's been a pretty simple game plan in terms of the defense for Atlanta United. Like, you know who can hurt you and you know who you have to protect against and who you have to stop. And look, full credit to Inter Miami on that second goal in that first game. Like, it was an absolute cracker of a goal. I think you have to live with that, though. Like, if a guy's going to hit an A1 prime piece from 26 yards out or whatever it is, yeah, you tip your cap and you'll live with that. But you have now really more than just 2 games, like for the majority of the season, because it goes back into when he came as a sub in Mercedes-Benz in the regular season and also the game in Miami. You have pretty much put a quality lid on Suarez and Messi. You haven't completely airtight closed it out, but you've done a pretty good job. And I think the message is simple. Like, someone else has to beat us. And if Jordi Alba or whoever else it's going to be is going to beat you, you'll live with it. You're not happy, but you'll live with it. But that guy's not going to be the one to beat you. And Atlanta United has made sure that multiple times over the course of the season.
All right, so here's Messi's numbers according to our friends at SofaScore. They punched an 8. They gave him an 8.1 on the day. His mathematics of XG plus XA, if you believe in these kinds of things, a 1.27. 3 shots off target, 1 block, 3 of 5 on the dribble, 1 big chance missed, 81 touches, 51 of 59 passing at 86%, 5 key passes, 0 for 5 on crosses, 2 for 4 on long balls, 7 of 11 on ground duels, lost possession 18 times. 3 times he was fouled, offside once, and it was on the goal that could have locked it down for Inter Miami. And then he also had a tackle on the day as well. So those are the numbers for number 10 for Messi and friends, the Messi of Messi and friends. So, I mean, that's.
Well, here's the question. And it's such a difficult answer because of who Messi is, the level that he's played at. I think a lesser player, with the pressure that Messi has at Inter Miami, might press, might force things, might make mistakes. The problem is, I don't know how much pressure Messi feels in terms of comparatively to the other biggest games of his career. You're talking World Cups, Champions Leagues, and Copa del Rey's, and everything that he's been through that has gotten him to the point where many, including myself, consider him the greatest to ever play this game. I don't think you're counting on that guy to press in round 1 of a playoff series where they are a home favorite. And so the job remains the same. Continue to do whatever you can to frustrate him and make someone else beat you. I don't think at this point in Messi's career, he's at a stage where he's going to be beating himself. I think there are other players in this league, and we saw it with some red cards over the course of these playoffs and guys who are doing things that doesn't really feel like stuff they would normally do. Those guys are pressing. Those guys are feeling pressure. Those guys are struggling in the moment. That's not going to be Messi. I just find a real tough time making an argument, even at this stage of his career, that that's ever going to be Messi. And so you're stuck with keep doing what you've been doing. It, for the most part, worked so far. But you remember, with that guy, it still only takes a moment for the impact to erase. All of the stats you read were great, right? But if he creates a quarter of an inch of space next Saturday and finds a strike that's not 0 of 3 off target, but 1 of 1 on target, it can be a real problem. It's just the toughest part about him, which I think is what you find with all of the great players in the world right now, is it's got to be every single moment. It's got to be every single second of focus. You cannot lose it for even a moment because it only takes that moment for him to beat you. I mean, you have to be dialed in for the 90-plus stoppage time or however long he does end up being on the field for every single time that the ball is coming forward. Not just when he's got the ball, but when other people as well. And so you've just got to be hyper aware of what's going on. They've done a great job so far, but as we know, that can all be, put in the rear view if you make a couple mistakes next time out. So you got to stay on it. There's no doubt about that. And you just also have to know he's not going to beat himself the way some of the other players in this league maybe would.
I will say this because I know that you have to get to the frequency modulation side of things. You've got to get to working this morning. That when 68,000 plus, and now Atlanta United has 4 of the top 5 attendances in postseason history for Major League Soccer. When 68,000 with an open roof, mind you, an open roof make the kind of noise that they made, I shudder to think in retrospect what that noise would have been like if the roof was closed on that moment at 93 and a half minutes in where playoff Shonday sends everybody to social media and all they're doing is typing syllables in capital letters. Absolutely crazy moment. And the way for Dax McCarty's career to continue, his last home match, unless they win MLS Cup, and he did say after the match that, yes, if we win MLS Cup, I'm sticking to my bet where I told Saba, if we win, I'm coming back. But great way to finish out the home schedule for Atlanta United to have another moment like that, like we've had this season.
Well, and here's the other thing. First off, whatever happens Saturday night, I think the team has done themselves proud in this series against the supposed greatest team in the history of the regular season, with the greatest player in the history of the world. Look, we were here last year though, and we took the top seed, to a third and deciding game in their building and played well, but lost. And I don't think there's necessarily any shame or disgrace in that. I think a lot of the players, Dax McCarty, and maybe this is Rob Valentino's last game as manager. I don't know what the situation is there. I think everyone has done themselves proud. But at the same time, you have also already seen a couple of supposed MLS Cup contenders sent home, including in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to feel like you can't win this game. I mean, between what's happened the rest of the playoffs, including a Columbus Crew team who many thought were going to win this thing, being eliminated by the Red Bulls in 2 games, to the fact that you performed so well against Miami, not just in general, but at their place as well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons for confidence. Obviously, they're not going to fold, but you have impacted them. There's no doubt about that. They understand that this is not going to be an easy third game that's going to be handed to them. And quite frankly, you did as much as you could to hand them game 2 with the Goose goal. If you play a little bit cleaner, there's no reason not to be able to go down there. And so it's going to be an interesting game. I'm not going to say I'm like as confident as, like, I was pretty confident they were going to go into Montreal and win that game. I think I told someone like 70%. I'm probably not at 70, but I'm also not at like 12 or 10%. Like they're going to have a real shot in this game to extend the season. And look, based on how they're playing, based on what's happened in the rest of the Eastern Conference, there's no reason to feel that if they get by Miami, they, especially in one-game situations, road, home, who cares? They can still be a dangerous squad. And so I'd be a little nervous if I were a potential second-round matchup if Atlanta does come through. I'm sure you breathe a little breath of fresh air. It's not Messi and Inter Miami, but if Atlanta's going to be a problem moving forward if they can get by those guys.
And it would be against one of your rivals, either Sir Minty, it would be a Minty Fresh second round one and done, or the purple team again. So that's what you
again, you have confidence that you could beat either of those teams if you can get by Miami. No doubt about it.
All right, you got to go because you got to do like 92.9 the game stuff and like actually be on the air and work it. So for those that want to listen to you on the frequency modulation side, what are you up to this week?
Yeah, 92.9 the game. I'm about to host in right now, actually, and then tomorrow night, Tuesday night, I'll be on from 7 to 10, and then just the rest of the week hanging out in the middays. But a programming reminder for Saturday night. Obviously, the kickoff's a tad bit later, so pregame will start at 7:00. And because of college football, because of the Atlanta Hawks, we are going to be once again on Star 94. So Atlanta United, if you have to get away from the TV for a couple of moments, or if you want to sync the TV up, as we have suggested you can, get the Odyssey app. We're going to be on Star 94 on Saturday night.
As always, my friend, great to have you batting leadoff every week. We will be listening to you on the 92.9 the game side, and we will catch up with you soon.
You got it. We'll talk again next week.
There you go. That's John and Abe from the morning. And a lot of stuff to get into. All right, so the rundown on Monday. Abe bats leadoff. And then after Abe, we go through things. We got highlights and posts. SDH in the locker room, Matty Cruz and Jared Smith, they were in the locker room. We've got some posts to have you folks listen to in addition to the goals. 10 o'clock, Bart Keeler is going to join us and break down youth national team stuff on the U.S. side, plus some reffing down here moments from the weekend. And at 10:30, we'll get into the news of the day because there's a lot of news to get into, and there's a big piece of news for the Arsenal fan, and it has to do with Edu. So there's all of that. And then Jose Mourinho, I guess I'm kind of taking opening kickoff and Jose Mourinho and spinning it to the end because that was interesting with Mourinho. So opening kickoff turns into end of the show kickoff. But no, thanks for everybody for dropping by this morning. Welcome back to SDHAM and the Soccer's Morning Show. So we got to get into Atlanta United and the 2-1 win to force a Game 3 Saturday night down in Fort Lauderdale at the Erector Set. We'll get into the numbers, get into all of the ratings and the passing and all the stats as we go here for the remainder of hour number one before Bart joins us in a half an hour. Okay. Wasting no time. Like I said, no dilly, no day. Well, I mean, Jordan, it was kind of pieced together. They put it on the, look, the bank ain't paying me. That's the sponsor. So literally, for those that have been to Fort Lauderdale, you know how this thing was just kind of pieced together, and it's a temporary structure, and then they add more seats and make it even more temporary. So to me, it just kind of comes together almost like Lincoln Logs or an erector set. And so all of the metal pieces that you had with the erector set when you were a kid, yeah, temporary scaffolding, absolutely true. Yeah, so that's kind of what it looks like for me. But SDH will be down there on Saturday night. So we'll be down there on Saturday night, and we'll have things for you. We'll be down there, and so we will be blowing it up, as the kids say. All right, let's get into the highlights. So highlights, obviously, there's 3 of them, and we got to get into goals. So we'll start things off with the goal number 1, as it was 92-9 the game, and the Odyssey app. Here's how Messi and friends got the 1-0 lead after what Bart and Abe and I were talking about here in the first half hour of the show. Here's the first goal on the board, as Mike and Jason called it on 92.9 the game on the Odyssey app.
Jordi Alba on the left wing swings this to the back post. Brad under it and makes the catch. Then Brad gives the ball away, trying to release it, and it's going to be tipped in for a goal. There's a foul plea for Atlanta, but it's going to be knocked in for a Miami goal on a sneak attack, very similar to the Jamal TRA goal against Toronto.
Forgot how long the highlight was, so of course I take a sip of drink at the end of the highlight. So that made it 1-0, and that's where it was at the intermission, when, for those of you that were in the building, got to see the Hoff and me sit there and go through the first half highlights that Abe and I were talking about just a little bit ago. So 1-0, and then it turns into 1-1. I know we're kind of skipping ahead here. It's almost like the old broadcast of Notre Dame football. We move forward in the broadcast, because of the sake of time, pretty much. Then we move forward. So, all right, 1-0. Here's your equalizer once again. Chance and Hawkeye. Once again, I give the Atlanta United social media crew full credit for that one. Hawkeye, Pedro Amador, combining with Derek Williams.
It's over the head of Ronald Hernandez. It'll roll into the near touchline and be kept in play by Fortune. Over to Amador now, who will pitch from the left wing to the back post. Header! Score! Derek Williams! And this place is worse than bonkers. Atlanta United finds the equalizer with a half hour to play.
So there's your equalizer. It's 1-1, and yeah, I mean, literally, this is how it is for me these days when you have these moments that Mike and Jason get to call. So it is definitely the goosebump check, and then you got to kind of, it's like what The Rock does, when he comes out to the ovation. So 1-1, and as we thought, might be heading to penalty kicks to decide if it's going to a game 3 or not. Didn't need to get that far. Playoff Shonday, once again, he gets himself a moment. We'll catch up. We'll let you know. We'll hear from Shonday and a couple of others coming up in just a little bit. But here's how it was. Strap yourselves in, folks. Once again, 92.9 the game on the Odyssey app at 93 and a half minutes gone of a possible 95.
Rios gets up under it to head it forward. Now it's loose in the middle, and it rolls to Rios. Rios passing to Moyamba. Ahead to Shante Silva, top of the arc. Shot! Score! 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 With 90 seconds to play! What a team goal! And Shante Silva gets his first goal of the playoffs with a minute to play. Atlanta United could be on the verge of going back to Fort Lauderdale. Can you believe it?
Mike said he needed a cigarette after the match, and he probably wasn't the only one. So there it is. 2-1 final. Playoff Shonday forces everyone to comment in all caps on social media. And let's get into your post. Maddie and Jarrett in the locker room, and they were there for a lot of different folks to discuss what was going on. So first off, let's hear from the guy that scored the game-winning goal. Here's Shonday Silva, part of the scrum in the Atlanta United locker room.
Maybe. Yeah, I just came in, did my job, so I'm happy to help the team, and I'll keep doing that.
It's been the last half of the season. You've been in and out of the lineup. You've had some injuries. How does this make up for all that?
Yeah, it happens. Like this is football, so we try like to be fit every time. As I said before, like there's rocks on our path, so we try to avoid. That's what I've been doing. Try to get fit, and here I am now.
¿Usted soñó con este gol al minuto 90?
Yeah, it's a dream for everyone, but as I said, it's my job, It's my job, so now I'll keep doing.
How hard is it not to be playing and then getting and then score a goal? I mean, you have to be mentally strong.
It's easy when you have like good teammates like Tristan Muyumba, Q, Jamal, Pedro. Like even if I don't play, I see them play. Like it make me happy. So yeah, it's easy like that.
Easy like that. Shande Silva in the locker room with SDH and a lot of different folks after the 2-1 win. So let's go backward to the first goal. And if you remember on social media, Brad Gazan, as Derek Williams was talking into whichever device it was, Brad Gazan comes in from behind. It's about time he scored. Obviously, nice little 8-second pop there. Derek Williams gets goal number 1. Here's Derek in the locker room with Maddie, Jarrett, and everybody else.
It's over the head of Ronald Hernandez.
Unless, of course, you hit the wrong button. And this is Derek Williams in the locker room.
Honestly, it felt like that last 7-8 weeks. We've been the so-called underdogs every week. So we're in this fight or flight mode, and we're definitely fighting. So, yeah, we're just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we beat them there before. They beat us there. So let's go.
Does it also to the bounce back? How did y'all bounce? You had such a disappointment with Brad's mistake and giving up that goal. You played pretty well, but you're down 1-0 at halftime. How do you bounce back from that?
Yeah, it's true. I think end of the first half, we looked a bit down, and we came in the halftime. We were like, we're still in this game. We've been the better team. Once one error, it's not going to define us. So we said the first 5-10 minutes, let's really up the tempo, get in their faces, and just have a go. Because, like we said, no one's been giving us a shot.
No one's been giving us a shot. So Derek Williams, we'll go through the numbers on SofaScore. I forgot to do that with playoff Shande, but lineup says we started. Once again, it was where Saba ends up as a right wing back, goes forward. You turn the dial. Saba goes forward. Line of 4. Saba advances. Saba comes back defensively. Line of 5. So it was 3 center backs: Luis Abram, Derek Williams, Ronald Hernandez. Saba on the right, Pedro Amador on the left. In the middle, Bart, Dax, and Jay Fortune, and Miranchuk and Jamal were the ones playing in more of a forward position. So getting into the numbers for Derek Williams. Derek Williams with the goal and the yellow got a 7.7 according to our friends at SofaScore. 4 clearances, 2 blocks, 1 total tackle, 1 a ground duel, 1 a duel in the air, and committed 2 fouls, 59 touches, 89% passing on 42 of 47, had 1 long ball connected, 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target. So those were Derek's numbers at a 7.7 in the middle of it all for Atlanta United. So also there as a part of the growth in the back line, Ronald Hernandez. So here's Maddie's conversation with Ronald Hernandez in the locker room, exclusive here to SDH.
Going in 1-0 in halftime, what was the message in the locker room heading out to the second half?
Don't go all the way crazy, like stay calm. We were doing amazing first half, just about details, composure, keep playing that we were doing really good, and then don't lose the confidence that we are at home, we are in our stadium, so it was just about time and just creating the right chances to be back in the game.
I talked to you a little bit earlier this week about playing your game and not playing up to Miami. And you guys did that here today. I mean, how important is it to go out there in front of this stadium, in front of the fans, to be Atlanta United and not play to that opponent?
Things are easy when you know who you are, When everyone is a piece of the whole team, and then you know your role, you gotta do one thing at a time, and then that's what we did. if you see, there is no stars in this team. The biggest star of the team is the whole team. So which for me is the right mindset for the guys, being humble, recognizing that, and just play as a team.
I will recommend once again to go back to soccerdownhere.net and the deep dive that was done by Jason and Maddie with Ronald Hernandez. Go back and read that feature. That is your required reading of the day. Go back to soccerdownhere.net when Maddie and Jason caught up with Ronnie. And you really get to see the kind of individual that Ronald is on and off the field. Here's Ronald's numbers on the day. Played the full 90, 6 clearances, 2 picks, 2 tackles, 2 dribbles passed, 3 duels won on the ground, 3 of 7 in duels on the day. 1 foul, 72 touches, 50 of 53 passing at 94%. 2 long balls connecting out of 4 attempts, and he had one successful attempt on the dribble. All those different categories ticked off for Ronald Hernandez in this game number 2. Also, in the midfield, caught up with a couple of folks. I'm going to save one for later, but once again, here's another exclusive to SDH where Maddie caught up with Bart Sleesh and got his thoughts after game number 2.
I guess for starters, I asked you earlier this week in press, how important it was to capitalize on the counter. You talked about how difficult it was to be able to come back and defend from that. How do you think you guys did, especially when Miami did come back on the counter?
I think we were very good today on this part of the game, and I think Miami didn't create so many chances also in counter-attack. And yeah, we knew it that Messi, Suarez, they're gonna stay forward, but I think our rest defense was very good. We were very tight to them, and that's why we avoid this situation. Yeah.
You guys have such a great midfield and what you guys can do. You, Fortune, Moyamba, and Dax. I mean, how has it been having all of those guys, having such great midfielders, especially going into a game like this, having such a strong core in the midfield?
I think it doesn't matter who gonna play in the midfield, Tristan, Dax, me, or Gianni. We understand each other very well, and I think it looks very, very good. And I appreciate that I can play with them. And so, like I said, no matter who gonna play in the middle. And I think it's our also strong point in our team that we can play from the middle. Yeah.
Strong point that we can play from the middle. That's Bart Sleesh, 74 touches on the day, 57 of 61 passing at 93%. 1 key pass, 3 of 4 on his long balls on the day. Had the 1 shot off target. He won both of his duels in the air, 2 of 5 duels on the ground, so 4 of 7 on his duels. Fouled once, 3 clearances, 1 tackle, 2 dribbles passed for Bart Sleesh. Punched a 7.0 on SofaScore. So we'll stay in the midfield. And Jay Fortune got a lot of folks hanging out with him after the match. Jay finishes with a 6.6 on SofaScore. 89 minutes played. The math of the XG plus XA, a 0.51. 48 touches for Jay. 36 of 39 passing, 92%. 4 of 5 on long balls from Jay Fortune on the night. 1 shot off target, 1 shot blocked. 1 successful dribble attempt on the only one he tried. Had the 1 big chance that was missed. 2 of 4 on his ground duels, 1 his only aerial duel on the day. So 3 of 5 in the air and on the ground in challenges and jousts for Johnny Fortune. And he also had the 1 pick, the 1 tackle, and the 1 dribble passed. So Jay Fortune, a 6.6 on SofaScore, and a lot of folks wanted to hear what Jay had to say after the match. And so here is part of the conversation that Jay Fortune had with everybody in the locker room after the 2-1 win.
One of the biggest things for us was when you have Dax in the middle of the field, it allows for me to be a little bit more adventurous going forward, to go wherever, because he's going to hold the middle of the field down. So he kind of gives me that license to go wherever. He's always trying to find me and stuff like that. And with the back 5, we had the protection. We were a little bit more aggressive, knowing that when I jump out to go press, that there's people behind me that are willing to jump out as well, and then we have the cover from everybody. So I think the way we were set up and the personnel and whatnot helped out, and the subs too were a massive thing. As you can see, John Day scored, Tristan was involved and everything like that. So all the subs were helpful, and the way we were set up and the teammates were great.
So that's Jay Fortune. That's part of a conversation. And Little Birdie told me that you're probably going to hear a lot more from that conversation later on this week at soccerdownhere.net. So more from Jay Fortune as we go. Speaking of the midfield, a lot of folks wanted to hear what Dax McCarty had to say because it almost, I mean, there were points where, and you could tell when Dax was subbed out, that the weight of what could be was there with him. And so Dax ends up playing 71 minutes, 65 touches, 49 of 59 in his passes, 2 of 5 on long balls, 0 for 1 on the dribble, 2 of 5 on ground duels, 2 of 6 in the overall. He was fouled once, had 1 clearance, had a total tackle and a dribble pass. Dax McCarty, a 6.6, according to our friends at SofaScore. And here's part of the conversation that he had with Jarrett, with Maddie, and a lot of other folks there after the match. And so here's Dax, part of Dax's post after the match.
First of all, why won't they just let you retire?
I'm too good in training. You know, we play 5v2 rondos. I'm just so good. The young guys, they want to keep it going. So, what a great feeling.
So, you know, you were subbed off and saw kind of your emotions in that moment. Could you describe kind of what was going through your head, how you were feeling?
I mean, it's been every game for the last month. You go into the game just genuinely not knowing if it's going to be the last one, and so how do you reconcile that? It's an emotional roller coaster. We score a goal, thinking we keep going. I'm going to keep playing. They score a goal, you're thinking it could be it. This could be it, right? So, it was 1-1 when I got subbed out, and I was just overcome with gratitude, really emotional. I knew that was going to be my last home game ever. And wow, what an atmosphere. Just stuff you dream about. Honestly, our supporters were just incredible. And so, when you think the game's going to penalties, it's a crapshoot. Anything can happen. And so I was hoping we could snag a late winner, and you just don't know if it's going that way. I mean, Miami had a little bit more of the ball the last 10, 15 minutes, and they looked the more dangerous team. And when Shande scored, man, I said this earlier, but thankfully for Arthur, the roof was open, because if it was closed, it would have blown the roof off this place. That's how loud it was. I mean, just incredible.
He ain't kidding. 2-1 win once again, and that sets up a game 3 Saturday night at the Erector set in Fort Lauderdale. Of course, if you were to sit here and say Inter Fort Lauderdale CF, it would take up too many letters. So Inter Miami, Messi and friends, Atlanta United, they go to a game 3. And you'll get more from training this week as they get prepared for the trip down one more time to Fort Lauderdale. And it is going to be, it's once again, it is another chance. It's one and done. Loser leave town, winner keeps going. So that's where we are. Great to see 68,000 plus of you. And it's great to see you all here this morning breaking down everything when it comes to Atlanta United. So let's take roll call and see who everybody is. Morning, Alex. Good to see you out at the supporters lot. And great to see everybody that was there as we were doing the piece on Macaroni Tony. So now it's great to see everybody. And like I said, it's good to have those opportunities to come out every once in a while and see folks, but to be there to help tell the Macaroni Tony story with his mom there as a part of everything that our friends at Footy Mob were doing, and all of you 17s were doing to show your support and your love for Footy Mob, for Macaroni Tony, and for everyone around you on a game day basis and a daily basis. Very, very cool to come out there and see that for everybody. Edgar, founding member. Don't think I've ever heard it that loud. Electrical Atmosphere. By the way, Edgar, glad you're here. This is where we are every Monday through Friday, 9:05 until 11 whenever. And we break it all down for you with Atlanta United. But it's not just Atlanta United. We go over all the news of the morning. Like I said, there is news this morning. We'll get into that after we wrap up with Bart in hour number 2. There is news involving his beloved Arsenal. We probably will take that piece of news and ask Bart about it, in addition to the reffing down here that we have coming up in about 10 minutes. But news of the morning, hour number 2. We'll roll through the rest of the playoffs from the weekend, and I'm going to save opening kickoff for the end. It'll be like the coda kickoff involving Jose Mourinho and apparently a rant that was a lot longer than I initially read it to be. So it ended up being apparently an 8-minute rant, and we'll give you the greatest hits of that in opening kickoff as we close the show. Close after 11 o'clock this morning. Once again, thanks to Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, for dropping by, as he always does, to bat leadoff. So, Edgar, welcome. Don't be a stranger. David, good morning. Them FEA stripes or something, ain't they? Yeah, they is. They absolutely is. So, no, it was I tip my hat to all you guys, and as loud as that building is, two Dax's understanding. I wonder what the repair cost would have been if the roof had been closed. I mean, it was loud with you guys with the roof open, and 68-3, 68-355, I think was the number. But yeah, it was loud for y'all for the last home match of the year, considering everything else is going to be done on the road, and we will see where it goes from here. But yeah, them FEA stripes is heck, ain't they? Absolutely true. Harry, good morning. I know that you are looking for a new head coach in San Antonio. We talked about that in the USL Championship review preview. So they are looking for it. They are looking for a new head coach in San Antonio. His approach got them to the last match of the year, but it did not go well this year. So it's going to be a new era in San Antonio at San Antonio FC. Amelia says he's fine with Goose coming back. He was wrong about last year. I mean, a lot of folks were. It takes a little while to get confident with things having to do with Achilles and knees and things. And so you see that life has begun for the big old polar bear. Since he is 40, he is a man. And so we've seen what I need to find the stats when it comes to goals against and things like that. I need to find Brad's statistics this year and figure out where he is in the league when it comes to folks between the sticks. Yes, Katie, absolutely true. What a vibe the last 15 minutes where it was so loud. Yeah, Emilio, you saw a stat on the Jumbotron that Shonda's second on the team with shots on target, not shots taken. Well, and it is two separate things because and it's also up to the discretion of the official scoring type folks as to what actually is a shot on target and a shot taken. So it is a second on the team with shots engaged in between the two sticks on the crossbar for Shonda Silva. Yeah, it's entirely two different things. And Tom missed it. Tom missed it, ending up having to work on Saturday. You were not the only one. You were not the only one. And Wiley talking about the other matches. I think this is where Wiley's going with this, talking about Herrera. Ache with what he did last night. We'll get into that with reffing down here as a part of what went down on the weekend. Jordan SDH is going to Fort Lauderdale and looking forward to it. Yeah, Jordan said, yeah, Mike said he needed a cigarette on Twitter. Absolutely true. Katie Ronald has been such a pro for the team, stepping in when he was needed. Derek, late to the party. Derek, you're allowed. You're allowed to sleep in. By the way, that might actually be opening kickoff, now that I think about it. That actually might be. No, Rich, we have not. But I am trying to effort individuals from said franchise to either come on the show or do something on tape to discuss. Because, as Rich is reading my rundown for the week, we're going to have the general manager for North Texas, Mark Denny, coming on tomorrow morning at 10 to discuss the MLS Next Pro final involving Rich's Philadelphia Union 2 and North Texas SC. So we're going to have the GM for the Western Conference champs on tomorrow morning at 10 before Keeler Hodges joins us at 10:30. So we will be covering the MLS Next Pro Championships, and I have to figure out how to get some folks to discuss things on the Philadelphia perspective. Yes, and let's see. What am I missing here? So, yeah, so opening kickoff, I will do that. David, I can give him the finish and making a great run, but to push off his teammates wanting to celebrate. I think but I mean, I look at that, if that was David, as you are looking at it, I think he had a special celebration in mind for an individual that was tied to his family. And so there are times when guys roughhouse after goals because they roughhouse after goals. So like I said, I don't know the context of it. So, and so like I said, I will stipulate I don't know the context. Emilio find the stat regarding Silva stunning considering his season. Well, and remember that Shonday has been also fighting injuries most of the year too. So when he's come in, he's been clinical, at least inside the 2 posts and the crossbar when it comes to putting shots on target. So and making the most of a situation. Yeah, David, like I said, we're going to discuss the meltdown there. Like I said, we're going to talk about Ache and what happened in that match last night coming up in Reffing Down here. All right, so Bart's going to join us top of the hour. We're going to talk Reffing Down here, talk about youth national team stuff, third place finish for the U17 women's national team in the World Cup in the Dominican Republic. But there's a lot of Reffing Down here we have to get into. Game management, mannerisms, foul throws versus movement on a ball, spitting, and those kinds of things. That we have to get into. Red card, no red card. That happened in the Premier League this weekend. But, yeah, here on this side of the Atlantic, it's going to be game management, mannerisms, managing a match, foul throws versus movement on a ball, and Ache and behavior that is, just unacceptable on every level known to mankind. So we'll see what Bart has to say from the reffing perspective. Okay, really quickly before Bart comes in, opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Literally, we've gone 52 minutes, and I haven't had the chance to do opening kickoff because there's so much to talk about. There you go. There's your QR code. For those of you who are hanging out this morning, watching us however you are doing so on the 280-character app, on the Twitch, or on the YouTubes, hit that QR code. You start your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 when you check out. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%. Reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. Spring forward, fall back. This is, I get caught up in it in the sense of I enjoy that extra hour of sleep this time of year. It takes me a good couple days to figure out, okay, which clocks do I still need to adjust? I know I need to go into my car and adjust that particular clock. And that's a navigation problem in and of itself, trying to figure out, okay, now, level, hit the knob down, lever down, stop, push, lever up to get out and escape and all these kinds of things. But it takes me a little while to adjust to the fact that, oh, no, you're up at 6:30 when it's spring forward, fall back, when it really is, later in the day and all that kind of stuff. You've got that extra hour of sunlight, at least early. And then at 4 o'clock, everything will sit there and shut down. So when it comes to me and spring forward and fall back, I like the extra hour of sleep, especially after a match day like we had at Mercedes-Benz. I will take that extra hour of not doing anything. But it usually takes the body a week or two to sit there and realize, okay, no, it's 7:30. It's not 6:30. This morning here in the office, I was reminded that I needed to fix the big clock over next to the 55. And so I had to not break anything and try to figure out, okay, how am I going to do that and fix the clock. But yeah, I'm still in the process of getting everything reoriented when it comes to spring forward and fall back and clocks and things like that. So it is that time of year where it gets dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You got to figure out what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. But no. So spring forward, fall back. Glad it's here. I took the extra hour. I know we needed the extra hour. Mike needed a cigarette after the 2-1 win and discuss everything that was happening on the weekend. Like I said, we got news and notes, and we'll discuss Adu and Arsenal with Bart when he pops in and get through all of that stuff. Just another quick thing. Evangelinas Marinakis, the owner at Forest, was unsuccessful in appealing his 5-match ban because it was alleged that he had spit at a ref, and he was like, no, I had a heavy cough. Spitting towards match officials. We're going to have to do a lot with spitting today. So he lost his appeal in the 5-game stadium ban he received, spitting on the floor as match officials walked past him during the 1-0 loss against Fulham in September. He had been given the ban by an independent commission in mid-October following an FA charge of misconduct before the written reasons were published by the FA later in the month. and revealed what the suspension was for, has now had his appeal rejected by another independent commission. In the written reasons, Ref Josh Smith, AR James Mainwaring, and fourth official Tim Robinson all testified that the Greek businessman spat on the floor by them as they walked into the tunnel into their changing room. Marinakis denied that he spat at them, but he said that, quote, he felt a cough coming and he coughed on the floor down and to his right, which was away from the path the officials were taking, end quote. Marinakis' defense is that he smokes 2 or 3 cigars a day, often needs to expectorate and or coughs. His coughs contain phlegm. It's in direct quotes. That was in the report. Added, if he, meaning Marinakis, has to spit, he spits in a tissue if one is available, or on the floor if he does not have one available. Sometimes when he coughs, spit or phlegm can go to the floor. On the day of the incident, he was suffering from a hacking cough. He was taking lozenges. Marinakis' account of events was rejected by the match officials when put to them in the commission, which said, quote, we unhesitatingly reject his account that he spat or expectorated as a result of a cough. We are satisfied that he deliberately spat on the floor as the referee walked past him. He's already served 3 of the 5, but will miss his side's home match against Newcastle and the trip to Arsenal after the international break. Yes, absolutely true. Speaking of, and so since we're there, we'll go ahead and bring in Bart for the beginning of hour number 2. And the man done changed his background. Look at you. Changed your background.
It reminded me of the good old days.
And
last Saturday did.
And you're sporting a South Carolina. Wait, can you wait? Yeah, because that's SEC. You can do that because West Virginia is in another.
This is my. If I have to pick an SEC team, it's South Carolina for the sheer reason that I don't have one. No, I had one of my best friends in undergrad. Went to grad school at USC, East Coast, and so we just kind of traded allegiances. And so she became a WVU fan, and I picked up the South Carolina fandom.
There you go. And they turned back the clock to
2001,
brought Cocky out with the Cocky caboose, and 2001 A Space Odyssey, in addition to Darude and everything. And they took ATM to the proverbial woodshed out there at the fairgrounds. That was a fun one.
Yes. Love any time that Texas A&M loses. That I think is a holdover somewhat from the Big 12 now to the SEC. I think both conferences, their fans realize that they don't like them. So
no,
we all agree.
Yes. All right. So since
apologies to any Texas A&M fans, but not really.
I was going to say, I don't know if we have any here in the show or in the Twitch pitch. Since we're on spitting down here, apparently, since the appeal came from Evangelinas Marinakis, and he was denied because of cigars and expectorating, and I didn't think that we would ever have this kind of a mention on the show, but we certainly are now. I want to start with Ache since it's
I was about to say, so we're talking about Hector Herrera.
Yeah, we're going to talk about we're talking Ache since we're going from Marinakis and spitting down here. We'll go straight to Ache before we get into youth national teams and things. Completely and totally lost the plot, completely and totally unacceptable from a professional athlete, and did not need to have that happen. Probably one of the worst possible times that something like that could have happened.
Correct.
I mean, like, you lose the plot for a couple of different reasons, and you feel compelled to literally, you took, 2 or 3 strides past center ref, you turn back around. And you launch. I mean, that was like, I'm going to think about this for a second, and then I'm going to turn and do it. That was not smart by Ache, and it ended up not being a good result for Houston on the night.
Well, I think the very first thing is to remember that all of this is just a game. And spitting at another person is a sign of immense disrespect, even outside of a sporting setting. And obviously Marinakis understands that, despite him smoking, what amounts to, I guess, 3 packs of cigarettes a day, or
2 or 3 cigars plus whatever. Yeah.
That's not an excuse, and it's certainly not something you're allowed to do, period, in the game. And I think Ache, for some reason, thought he could get away with it by doing it at the referee, when he knows for damn sure he wouldn't be able to do that toward another player, right? Yeah. I mean, there better be suspensions coming. If he cares, he might retire after the season. I don't think he particularly is enjoying his time in Houston.
Yeah, so that was not a moment for Houston to have it hell in a shell, and I mean it was a fantastic match and finished the way that it did. But that goes into the category of
Yeah.
issue don't do under any circumstance.
Correct. And again, it's I mean,
I know you're thinking, and I know you want to
I'm
say
trying
something.
to not blow the explicit rating so
Why?
early.
No one's done it already.
But I'm just also trying to think of like there's no real reason to get that upset about a call in a soccer game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That is where we're at, is that you think that for some reason this person has disrespected you so badly that you feel the need to spit at them, which is a higher form of disrespect than them giving you a mere yellow card. Grow up. Like that is absolutely childish behavior and speaks more about your character than it does anything about any referee and anything they've done. And again,
Mm-hmm. Bart froze. There it goes. Come back to me.
Yeah,
There
sorry.
we go. There you go.
I'm here.
Yep. But no, it's just that goes into the issue don't do category, and you end up making your way out the door.
Like you could curse at a referee and it would be less like
Okay,
disrespectful.
all right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's get into that. Where's the line? So
I mean, like, look, if you curse at a referee, you're probably getting at least a yellow card, if not a red card, depending on which particular word you use and how you use it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this. Anytime you direct the curse word at me,
yeah,
that's a red card. But if you say that's a
it's so the difference is
if you say if that's a shitty call,
yeah,
okay, that's a yellow card
because
right?
because you're discussing the act and not the
right.
actor.
If you say that's bullshit, if you say any of that, you're getting a yellow card, right? That alone, that is the trigger. Like you know. But if you say you're a shit referee,
yeah,
well, that's a red card.
Yeah.
But I understand that is in the moment. That is a pure rage reaction.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll go, okay, well, here's your red card. Go sit down. Think about what you've done. And most of the time, like the other players, your teammates, they understand, right? They're gonna do the obligatorial protestation of what you've just done, but they're gonna understand. They're not gonna go too hard against you. But the spitting, again, it's because this is not a verbal, just immediate reaction. This was thoughtful. You had to create the saliva in your mouth, project it towards someone.
Yep.
That is thoughtful, especially when you look at what he did, where, as you mentioned, he walks past the referee, turns, looks at them, spits.
Mm-hmm.
This was not an instant reaction out of just, rage.
This was somebody mentioning Niagara Falls. I mean, literally, this is slowly I turned and then bang. And then Katie goes, yeah, so like, why was the Ben Olsen?
My only guess is he didn't see what happened,
yeah.
which means he probably also is being an idiot. So,
well, and wasn't getting any, and was not getting any advice and or assistance from anyone looking at a monitor, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, if you would have seen that as a coach, then I would hope that the coach would. I don't want to say stick up for the referee. I don't expect that, but
no.
Acknowledge.
Yeah,
you just can't do that.
What my player did in that moment was unacceptable. Yeah. We will discuss it behind closed doors, and that is all that I'm going to say about the matter publicly.
Yeah.
You get that kind of give me that sound bite.
Yeah, you just say, hey, he can't do that. He knows he can't. He should know he can't do that, and I'm sure that he'll get. We'll discuss it later. Type of thing.
And so. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those kinds of things. I want to get into game management and specifically crew and Red Bulls as the context here. First and foremost,
we're going to jump right into the Atlanta United discussion.
No. That is
speaking of poor game management.
That is someone in the middle that kind of needs to know what's going on. We can use that as a parallel and build into it. So when you have someone who might be overwhelmed by their surroundings and the situation, you end up a lot of times with iniquity when it comes to calls, imbalance when it comes to calls. You think that you think that you may be setting a tone by not doing anything, and then by not doing anything, things kind of get out of hand. I guess this was probably more morphing into Atlanta and Messi and Friends instead
It
of.
does sound like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to talk about with Crew and Red Bulls, and that is more of the snowball effect, I guess, with Crew and Red Bulls.
Yeah.
So all right, fine. Well, let's get into game management involving Atlanta United, Messi and Friends. Yeah, sometimes you get iniquity with someone that doesn't quite understand the room, how to read the room, and let things either breathe and be consistent, or clamp down and be consistent, because what's worse is going all over the place.
Well, let me quickly address the Red Bulls Columbus match and just say that I think when you see foul count iniquity, you can often say, oh, well, this is a referee who looks a little bit out of his element. But when you then look at the game state and understand Columbus is pressing, New York is defending a lot. We know that Red Bulls, while they're not, very Red Bull this year, they still are Red Bulls, and they do tend to foul more than other teams. I don't think that was necessarily a ref didn't know what to do in a moment, but he did at times seem a little scared of the moment. That's probably not the best word, but he definitely didn't feel like he was up to the task in that moment.
I don't know if overwhelmed or intimidated or
whatever. But I do also think a lot of that is because you have a Columbus team that knows they have to come out and win, right? Pressing high, pressing hard, pressing the whole game to try to get those goals. And that's going to cause a situation where one team is going to be more likely to foul the other because they're just defending more. I mean, stats were 60-40 possession, for Columbus. That means Red Bulls are defending more frequently, and that just means you're going to have more fouls.
Well, and to your point, those numbers, and I was trying to find the foul numbers quickly. Fouls on the day, Red Bulls 18-6.
Yeah.
18-6.
Does that mean that I think that Columbus only committed 6 fouls? No, I think
2 yellow cards. Yeah. Only 2 yellows on the 18 fouls.
Right. And I think that's where this is where we talk about playoff refereeing, where you want the players to decide the match for themselves, right? You don't want to inject yourself into the match by giving too many cards or whatnot. But the reality is 18 fouls to me indicates one team was doing their job to try to earn the yellow cards, and at some point you do have to kind of reward them for that hard work they put in. And I don't think that a lot of referees want to do that in the playoffs. We definitely see the amount of cards go down in knockout round situations because you don't want to send someone off for doing something that possibly could be seen as controversial. And a lot of times a second yellow card can be controversial because now you're arguing both yellow cards and all these things, even though most of the time, my opinion, a second yellow card is well warranted by the player who gets it. This was definitely an imbalanced match, but I think it was always going to be. And so that's kind of, again, where that is a hard, line to keep of, okay, well, where's these are normal fouls, and okay, you've gone too hard.
18 fouls to 8 on the day. Yeah. 2 yellows in the 18 fouls for Red Bulls, 1 yellow in the 8 for Columbus. And this one, that yellow card was after a foul was called on Red Bulls just outside the 18.
Mm-hmm.
And as folks are going around center ref, a yellow was given to Cucho, the player who was fouled, and I'm guessing it was magic word because that's the only thing I can think of in this case.
It probably was, that was probably a magic word or some, maybe not a magic word, but just like dissent of some level. I think that's probably more what it was.
A la peanut butter sandwiches coming from Cucho in that case. Earned him a yellow card. And then you have, when it comes to, and this was the other part of this that I wanted to get into about Crew and Red Bulls. When it comes to refereeing and mannerisms, I want to get into this because you have some referees who are demonstrative in their displays, some who are if like maybe like an Ismail Elfath, but where you have an Ismail Elfath who is like, all right, everything is almost within the shoulders. It's like shoulder to shoulder. We're cool, stay cool. Tamp it down a little bit. Come here, do this. But then there are those center refs who are out here like this, and they're like, they're bringing in planes and all this kind of stuff with how they navigate a match. And I think that at times you have the folks that operate outside the shoulders who may send things spiraling in an entirely negative direction by being outside the shoulders when it comes to their administration of what they're trying to say.
So this is referee training.
Okay.
And a lot of referees are taught to make those grand gestures. The reason is because in theory, you're signaling to everyone, no more, don't do that again. 1, 2, 7, 12, no more, whatever they're signaling. We've seen that all the time. I personally prefer the LFAF mode of let's have a conversation. Personally, I'm communicating with these players the whole time saying, I'll make a call and be, hey, 27, that's 3. Let's be careful there. Sometimes I'll have to walk up to the player and have a conversation because I don't believe in the, like you just said, I mean, when you're gesturing grandly, that indicates almost a more dramatic event than actually occurred. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I've always thought that when you're outside the shoulders, I know that you're supposed to draw attention to yourself as center ref, but there's that tendency, I would imagine, that drawing attention to yourself as center ref and drawing attention to yourself,
yes,
that ends up blending into being the same thing as opposed to being two separate things, which is what you hope that can be.
Look, I know that this game often is a telenovela, but we don't need to inject ourselves as actors in the telenovela with telenovela-esque acting.
True.
That's kind of my thought,
Yeah. And so then let me come back to Atlanta.
But that's I will just say that is training. A lot of referees are trained to do that.
So they are trained literally to be outside the shoulders and sit there and bring in planes and let everybody
make your gestures look bigger than normal so that the entire field knows what's going on. Personally, I think the act of going up to have a conversation with a player is signaling enough that they have done whatever they just did is not good. Now, I do think that, the 1, 2, 3 pointing that does help. And some of that is language barrier issues, right? Like you can't, but you can say, hey, that's enough, or you can do this, or you can go, there are ways to still be within yourself and not act like they're, being scolded by Nanny.
And then let me continue on Crew and Red Bulls here, where when you're in a heated situation, how
was that a heated match?
It was. Well, then, but then how do you, as a center ref in a heated situation, like I said, using the context of what we saw in Crew and Red Bull, how do you, in a match that is heated, keep yourself from getting heated and get involved in the emotion of the match? Because I think there were times where we saw folks getting overheated, and then you would end up with center ref matching that temperature in a scrum or what have you. And I think it was the one moment that sticks into my mind is the element where Cucho's fouled just outside the 18. Crew is lobbying for a penalty or at least a check to VAR. Red Bulls are in referee's face. Everything's getting elevated, people talking in ears, and Cucho ends up getting the yellow. And it looked like, literally it looked like center F is like matching that level of challenge, emotional challenge from both Crew and Red Bulls to each other. How do you keep from navigating to that point to where it does risk blowing up and getting out?
Let's be real honest, John. To blame the referee for a match getting that heated because 22 players on the field plus 7 coaches on each bench plus, the 7 subs on each bench plus 27,000 fans or however many were actually in Red Bulls.
Actually, it was a decent crowd.
It was full. 27,000 fans, I think, is what that place holds. Like, to blame the referee for somehow losing their emotion a little bit in that situation, while not also blaming the players for having the audacity to, again, it's like you had It felt like, if each team has 11 players on the field in that moment, it felt like 12 players from each team were somehow surrounding the referee.
Yeah.
And to, again, that is the point that we've been talking about with mass confrontations, with crowding the referee, with only talk to referees. I know that's not something in MLS that they do necessarily, but like, that is the point, is to reduce that problem, because as soon as you go up into a referee's face, you yourself have taken the responsibility on yourself that you may be getting some sort of punishment.
Mhm.
That's on
Well,
you.
yeah.
That's not the referee for you getting in their face, because if any other normal human in any other situation gets in your face and then brings 8 of their friends with them,
Mhm.
what is your reaction going to be?
Right. And
It's
that's
going to be defensive, and it's going to be either to match energy or to retreat, and you can't retreat as a referee.
how do you then let me ask then, how do you diffuse as a referee in that situation? Because
Well,
like I
short
said,
of calling them all dumbass idiots,
I mean,
then,
well, then we
that's the problem. You can't say that.
But if we go back to the Elfath model, say, he and Jair Marufo and a couple of others in these mass confrontation situations, they're still within the shoulders.
Yeah. And that, again, is training, right? They have trained themselves to do that. I also think, to a great extent, fitness is a big component of this, because if you, and again, to expect a referee to be at the same fitness level as a professional athlete is a little unfair, but fitness can come into this if you've allowed yourself to get physically overheated and slightly exhausted. Your blood pressure, I mean, again, your blood pressure is already up because you're running around all these places.
Yeah.
It's hard, John. It is, especially when people are acting like you've just told them that their mother is the worst person who's ever lived and has been friendly with about 47 ex-presidents. That is tough to deal with.
Lincoln and your mom.
Right. I mean, when you're talking about, George Washington and their mom and your mom, then that's going to be problematic. And it's hard to keep yourself checked because, again, you're a human. Referees are human. I want to repeat, referees are human.
What?
And we can expect consistency, we can expect certain levels of performance. But the emotional side is hard because, again, you're the only person out there who both teams hate. And again, I know Jason has this conversation almost all the time that you can't see the referee as the enemy. Well, a lot of these players assume, Hector Herrera, that the referees are automatically enemies, right? And in this particular situation where you have a contentious foul, and that's the thing, fouls are going to be contentious. Red Bulls are arguing that it's not a foul, even though he was clearly fouled, because no player has ever committed a foul on your team, which is, again, the dumbest mindset I've ever had. Is you're playing a sport where you're going to foul people. Stop acting like every time you foul someone, you didn't foul them, right? Take some sort of accountability and ownership. But then you have Columbus trying to argue that, oh, well, it is a foul and it's actually a penalty kick. Why didn't you give us a penalty kick? How dare you? As the referee, you're sitting there going like, okay, well, one of y'all is wrong, both of y'all are wrong, or I'm wrong. Which one is it? And I'm pretty confident that I'm not wrong. / we got video upstairs that'll tell me if I'm wrong or not. And so that's where it's kind of really frustrating as a referee, and especially at the professional level, where you have so many people who are very good at their craft, who somehow, for some reason, think that you're wrong about every single thing you've ever said, done, or, existed.
And then getting back into, before we get into stuff overseas, the overseas reffing down here, 14 fouls called in the match with Atlanta and Messi and friends, 7 on each side. But for Atlanta, 4 of the 7 fouls resulted in yellow cards, where only 1 was for Messi and friends.
Yep. I thought Rubiel Vazquez had a very bad game. I want to put this out there. I thought, if you want to talk about a guy who lost himself in the moment, that is Rubiel Vazquez, because Miami had at least 2 fouls before Atlanta got our first yellow card that should have been yellow cards. I forget exactly the 2 players, but there were 2 fouls in the midfield where I think it was one that Fortune got stepped on.
I think Cello Wagan.
I think it was like where it was like, okay, I understand you don't want to give a yellow card, but the guy just stepped on a player like harshly. That can be a yellow card. And then our first yellow card was it's a yellow card, but it's not like it was under the threshold that Miami got away with. And we don't need to talk about the Brad thing because I'm going to say things that are going to piss people off in the comments.
Well, no, but I mean, honestly,
Vasquez as a whole lost the confidence of everyone on the Atlanta side because he did not hold the same standard. And that's the difference between the Red Bulls Columbus match, I think, and this match. Is I think in the Red Bulls Columbus match, there are two different standards when you're looking at a team who is pressing to go score a bunch of goals. And so one team's defending a lot, and you're just naturally going to have a lot of fouls, right? I mean, 18 fouls from Red Bull. They got lucky they didn't get more yellow cards, And the one for Columbus was obviously, I think, dissent. Like that is just what it is. Whereas on the Miami side of things, they were allowed to get away with some things, at least in the sense of not getting yellow cards and sometimes not even fouls.
Yeah.
That Atlanta didn't get the same luxury to do. And Atlanta was defending a lot in this match as well, not as much as Red Bulls. But I thought Vasquez just also did not inspire confidence throughout the game. I mean, I know that's hard when you have 68,000 people rooting against Messi and you're like, wait a minute, Messi's the best thing that's ever existed. I thought we were just supposed to have him win. And you actually have people rooting against Messi, which I know is a different feeling for Miami. They were probably like, what are you talking about? I thought everyone's supposed to come here and love us. and I know that rocked them, and it certainly did not look like Vasquez had ever been in front of 68,000 people before because he even the handling of the Guzan incident was not an inspiring incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
He could have easily just said, no, I don't think so, and we're moving on. But it was, I mean, I understand Brad felt the way he felt.
Because you
discredit that, but
no, and I think that as Katie wants this discussed, it to me, and this is the benefit of looking at something through replay. It looks like that Brad had something in his periphery as he was going on his follow through, and I think he chunked it. I think that
I'm going to be honest. I think this is more you need to blame Brad than you need to blame the referee, and I'm really sorry to Atlanta fans. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that in his follow through, I think he hit the turf first and didn't hit ball first, and
I think he definitely was impacted by seeing something in his peripheral.
Yeah, and I think that was
that is not impeding progress.
So that's
it really isn't.
Okay, so then all right. So then since we're here, let's discuss impeding progress. So what is impeding progress as you see something in your periphery? And I think this is where Brad was going.
It's not how that
but
works.
I mean, but just
I mean,
the idea of impeding progress. Let's get into impeding progress and what that is and what it is considered there.
Well, so impeding would mean being in the way of.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't in the way of Brad, not in the area of, was he probably closer than referees would normally allow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's also on Brad. Okay. Sorry. It was on Brad. There was no contact. Even his kind of juke into him, which absolutely could have been called I think Vasquez could have absolutely called and said, no, you definitely ran into him, but he didn't. And that would have had to have been called almost in the moment, not after the goal is scored either. Mm. That's the other problem.
Yeah.
Once you let that go, you've decided to let it go.
Yeah.
There's no clear and obvious error for VAR to review. Right.
Yeah.
And, do I think maybe they should have spent he could have spent slightly longer being like, no, I'm checking, at least pretend, sell it like, no, we're good, and then let Brad be mad because he's the one who messed up. Another Brad Guzan gaffe in a knockout round game in Atlanta. But I'm sorry. It wasn't really, it wasn't impeding the goalkeeper. He was not physically in the way. That's just what it is. It's not, I happen to be in the line of sight. This is an offside. And Brad is the one in control of the situation where he's got the ball. If he thinks that he's impeding him, don't kick the ball. Or kick it, have it hit the player, and go.
See? And then you sit there and you go, and then you get a whistle and a review.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'm sorry. Brad, while he may think he was impeded, he's the one who messed this up.
Okay. One other rule before we get into stuff overseas, and I do want to ask about Adu and Arsenal, considering that came out this morning. and that'll be our transition into talking about other things. Defining a foul throw and determining a foul throw versus movement of the ball as it's coming out of players' hands, because that was something that came up this weekend as well. Foul throw was called, but was it because of stepping over the line? And then it looks like movement is not creating a foul throw. It's just how it slips out of a player's hands, kind of a thing. So what is a foul throw, the determinations of it, and then how do you manage
it's a vibes-based call, John. I got to be real honest with you. That's a vibes-based call. I'm sorry. And I know that's not the answer you want, but look,
I'm trying to walk through it.
We have standards and laws of the game of what a throw-in should be, right? You have to have both feet on the ground. Your shoulders need to be perpendicular to where you're throwing the ball in, that type of all this stuff, right? You're supposed to go behind the head and in front of the head. We have all these rules. It's not even flexible. It's like how do I say this nicely?
We just said vibes.
If you look at it and you go, that's ugly.
Okay.
You're probably going to call it. I think of it a lot of like a double in volleyball, where as someone who used to referee volleyball, yes, there are technically, you should not be when you're setting, especially double contacting the ball, right? It needs to be two hands at the same time.
Right.
We allow setters and non-setters, but we allow setters some grace if they're moving. There's wiggle room, but the real test is, did it look ugly?
Yeah.
Did it go? Okay, that's a double.
Yeah.
In a foul throw, for a foul throw, the biggest one I'll always say is if that foot comes up, we need to call it. That is absolutely something. But all of this, John.
Okay.
It's just I'm really sorry, y'all, but that's the reality. And here's the explanation I always give people. Of all the things in a soccer game, of all the things, throwing the ball in most of the time is the least consequential thing. Now, I know Atlanta United, because they fell asleep, conceded a goal that ended up, literally costing us a better playoff position. Because, a player may or may not have stepped over the line. May or may not have. I still have not seen any definitive evidence that he did. It just, you want it to be, you probably want it to be mostly equal in terms of how, you don't want it to be one way or the other with one arm. You want it to come over the top of your head, but like, what is over the top of your head? Right? Is it this? Is it to the side? Is it? I mean, that's still over the top of your head.
Is it back here?
Yeah.
Is it 12 o'clock? Is it 3 o'clock? Is it 9 o'clock? Where is it?
And that also goes from the opposite side. Is what point do I go? Well, that's not over the head to the side, or that is over the head. I mean, it's just so hard for us to truly gauge that. And the other thing is, and this has been things that we've been not officially told as referees, but I'll just kind of the conversation within referee circles. Throw-ins are very just inconsequential. Most of them result in the turn and a change of possession anyway.
Yeah, especially
it's just something that we're of all the things that we're gonna get you on.
Yeah,
y'all. Sorry. I know that's not the answer y'all want, but that's just the reality.
No, but and that's why I wanted to get into the idea of foul throw, movement.
Weston McKennie has not thrown a ball in according to the laws of the game in his entire professional career. Okay, he still gets away with it. It's just because of the things that matter. It just doesn't matter that much.
Okay, like I said. All right, overseas, getting into the no red card in the Man United Chelsea match. And Dale Johnson, once again, one of our reference points here when it comes to all of these things. 3rd minute of stoppage time. Cole Palmer tries to get the ball past Martinez. United defender sticking out a leg to stop an opponent. Ref tried to play advantage, brought it back after Chelsea loses possession. Then Martinez shown a yellow. VAR checks for a red. You get no red. High challenge at the time.
Yeah, this would have been one of those either serious foul play, right? Was that a serious foul play? I think that's the question you're looking for. Possibly you could say that. I don't think that you can't judge intent, but the intent wasn't to make a serious foul play challenge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To me, it's a reckless challenge. It's hard, clumsy, irresponsible, maybe, but I don't think that was to the level of serious foul play. And I know that's not. It's hard to give us true meaning to that, but when you looked at it within the realm of the play, it didn't seem something seriously out of normal of what we would want soccer to look like. Let's just put it that way.
So VAR red cards for serious foul play through VAR aren't a rarity in the Premier League. Long-standing issue for video referees to get the balance right.
Correct.
Last season, 10 serious foul play reds through VAR, though the key match incidents panel ruled a further 6 should have been given, a success rate of 62.5% on this area of the law. Cases of serious foul play making up a quarter of the 24 missed subjective interventions. Yet to see a VAR red for serious foul play this season. Martinez can consider himself fortunate. It's only the Premier League's high bar for an intervention, the root cause for a VAR second guessing, which I don't like because you're re-refereeing if it's a second guess, which prevented Jones being sent to the monitor. Indeed, same high bar Bruno Fernandes's red against Spurs not being overturned.
Yeah.
And this
I would like for them to go to the monitor, the center ref, and I don't think that is the VAR telling them, hey, I think you got it wrong. It's just, hey, I think you need to take a second look to make sure you feel confident with your call, right?
Right.
And I think it's framing. It's not, hey, I think you got it wrong. Take a look. It's, hey, I think you should check to make sure.
Yeah, and then you get into the whole re-refereeing thing,
right?
Because
you don't want to do that, right? But I do think sometimes like if you were as a referee, look at this and go, nah, I still feel like I feel good about that. And you got to make that decision on your own. But again, the level is it's clear and obvious error.
Yeah.
And that's the question here. Was this a clear, obvious error that it was a red card? I don't think so. So at that point, we're not even going to the monitor for anything,
So Martinez catches Palmer high around the knee area with studs showing. And only a lack of any real force could have led VAR to judge a yellow was a justifiable disciplinary outcome.
And I think that, yes, the contact location looked bad. And I agree with that. I just think when you talk about serious foul play, I don't think this was at that level because, as I mentioned, the force of contact was not to that level. It was clumsy. It was bad. It's a yellow card. If he had given this a red card in the game because, studs on the knee, that's not great. I don't think you would have reversed it either. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So. Yeah, the whole studs on the knee thing, that's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not good. But I think it was more about a bad, you made a bad, you were under control. You just missed it as opposed to being out of control and playing in a seriously foul way. That, again, serious foul play, using excessive force. Those are the thing. That was not excessive force. That was just bad.
Okay. Adu apparently is leaving Arsenal. Asking the Arsenal fan here in this discussion, and apparently that came out this morning. Immediate new role. Sporting director Adu surprise exit from the club, and Brazilian returned to the club in 2019. Promoted to sporting director in 2022. And first reported by the four-letter paper, currently unclear about the reasons for his departure, although there has been significant change behind the scenes at the Emirates over the past 12 months. Chief executive departs. Then you have another individual taking the role of managing director. You had James King coming in, director of football ops. So it comes after the loss to Newcastle. And so it is understood to be his decision to exit from the role. So Adu out the door at Arsenal. What say you, Arsenal fan?
I think he's been a pretty instrumental figure in rebuilding what the Arsenal should be, right? I think we kind of lost our way a little bit at the end of the Wenger era, then going to Emery. I think a lot of that had to do with some people making decisions who probably shouldn't have been making decisions. And Edu came back to kind of right that ship as a soccer person making actual soccer decisions, not someone who just had connections with agents. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
But that said, I think Arteta has kind of been good enough to establish what his vision for the club is. And so you can have a sporting director whose job now is to work with Arteta and think bigger picture, but still think about what the immediate picture is as well. He'll be missed. I think that's it's not someone you want to leave, especially a guy who, has ties to the club outside of just working there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that is sad, but I do think that if you're Arsenal, you feel confident you can find someone who can come in who can do maybe not as good of a job, but a similar type of job as Edu has done.
And he is now linked apparently to Evangelinus Marinakis.
Atlanta United. Oh, sorry.
He's linked to the Evangelinus.
We're going to get Edu and Vieira in Atlanta. Edu as sporting director, Vieira as head coach.
Listen to you. I like how you're thinking there. Okay.
I do think Vieira is coming to Atlanta as the coach.
Though. Before you depart here on your Monday, wanted to discuss the third place finish for the U17 women in the World Cup, knocking off England to get the third place finish.
Love it doubly or triply, actually, I think as final scoreline would have said. Look, I jokingly said this about North Korea last week, but as I always say about youth competitions, it's not about winning the tournament. It's about playing well and getting potential players to show their quality. And I think you saw that throughout the tournament. Fuller and Barcenas proved that they're pretty darn good. I mean, it's not playing, professionally or anything, so they've kind of proven they're pretty good.
Yeah.
But especially when you look at the youth level, identifying talent, bringing in that, then getting that talent to come to a camp, then getting that selected pool of talent to continue to stay together while also evaluating if they're good enough and if there are other players. Because from, the 15 to 17 age group, which is about where this kind of tournament comes, that's a tumultuous time in anyone's life, right? I mean, we're talking about girls who, yes, there are some pros, but they're not 18, right? These are girls, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you got to the semifinal of both of these tournaments. Now, you have to replicate this, right? You need to keep doing this going forward. But it shows to me in the moment that our player development pipeline isn't as fractured as we kind of thought it was. And again, maybe we had a bad 2 cycles of maybe 3 cycles of youth tournaments, right? We've corrected that a little bit. Part of that could just be, hey, we had a bad 5 years of player development. That happens everywhere. Believe it or not, Spain hasn't been good for their entirety. Believe it or not, France hasn't been great for their entirety.
What?
Despite what England will tell you, they haven't been great ever. And that was a jab, but what I'm saying, like, player development at this level, when you have 2 years to pick from, right? Mm-hmm. That's one bad birth year. That's 1 year of, who knows what the reason is. So the fact that you're able to get to semifinals that's great. You win third place. I think that alone, actually, at that point, that is a good thing. Winning is a good thing at that point because you're reinstating, like, no, this is the U.S. women's national team. When we go to a tournament, we bring home a medal, right? That is a standard you want to keep. I think U.S. Soccer tweeted out, I don't want to say this is a bullshit thing, but it's not like, I read it and it's like, oh, okay, I guess that matters. But we medaled in all 3 major women's soccer tournaments this year, right? We got gold at the Olympics. We got bronze in both the U20 and U17 World Cups. And only country to medal at all 3, because North Korea didn't make it to the Olympics, despite, for some reason, them being very good at the youth levels. They don't replicate that success at the senior level. It's good. Question is, how do you take the 17s, get them to the 20s, get them to be better? How do you take the 20s, get them into the youth, the senior national team to supplement what you already have? And so, yeah.
The best finish since 2008 when they fell to North Korea in the final of the inaugural tournament. U17s for both men and women will become an annual event beginning next year. U17 Women's World Cup played in Morocco in October and November. USA will play in the 12-team final round of the CONCACAF qualifying March 31 to April 6. 4 nations will qualify for the expanded U17 Women's World Cup. So there you go.
I just like the yearly thing, personally. I don't mind. Now, one of the locations I don't love, but I don't mind having a more consistent location thing because I think what FIFA's realized is it's not really helping the countries that are hosting. Now, I'll give Colombia a lot of credit. Their U20 tournament seemed very good, but cool Dominican Republic got to host the U17s. I don't know if that factually makes any difference in their soccer development nation type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and they also, I think the announced crowd for the third place game was 3,900.
Yeah. Whereas in Colombia, you had especially when Colombia played, you had a pretty good support. It seemed like there was some positivity around the tournament. Obviously, it's a youth tournament, so I don't expect Colombians to show up to watch North Korea and I can't remember who they beat in the final. To show up necessarily, but I would like to see it rotated. But I think, for example, India hosted, and that hasn't done anything for them.
Yeah.
And those crowds were bad because you're playing in a cricket stadium. So not only is it a bad sight line, but you're talking about playing in a 40,000 seat cricket stadium with 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Not great. At least in the Dominican Republic, you didn't have quite that same optics problem. But I don't mind them going to a single host location. I don't like the every year thing.
Yeah. Not
That's
a
just a
surprise.
lot.
Oh, understood. Absolutely. Especially for infrastructure and rotating and making sure that you're qualifying cycles, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So now that you've hit 100 episodes of Soccer for US POD, what's up next, huh?
Yeah. Got to get to 200. Hopefully we get to 200 a little bit quicker. I will say that's my goal, is to be a little more consistent with putting out episodes, which means I think tonight, maybe tomorrow, we haven't nailed down a time. We're recording to talk about these friendlies that we just had for the U.S. women. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit on Friday, but it'll be fun. It's been fun to see new faces, and we'll talk about that a lot, because I think the takeaway isn't Iceland and certainly isn't Argentina. It's getting new faces on the field along with the established veterans, but not having to play Lindsey Horan 100 or 270 minutes, not having to play Naomi Gurma 270 minutes. So, those are the takeaways we're going to be talking about, is just individual things. And then also what we saw from, the team as a whole, but it's more about the individuals, I think, from this particular window, which is a good thing.
All right, my friend, it's always great to catch up with you on Mondays and roll through everything reffing down here, national team, and all of those kinds of things. Be safe and go enjoy your. Oh, what's the mug this morning? Silly me.
Be kind.
There you go. Absolutely.
So don't spit at referees.
No, that would be inappropriate. That'd be bad. So don't do that. We'll see what the size of the envelope is from New York headed to Houston. As always, my friend, great to see you.
Good to see y'all. Make sure if you haven't, get out and vote tomorrow.
Yes. Vote, 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 vote. Absolutely true. All right. We'll see you soon.
Bye, y'all.
All right. There's Bart, and there goes Bart. All right. So news of the day before we get out of here. We do have news out of Major League Soccer, because they're starting to pass around the awards. And we do have another one of the awards that has been handed out. No real surprise, but we'll go ahead and do this. Gabriel Peck, named 2024 MLS Newcomer of the Year. Once again, no real surprise. 16 goals, 14 assists in 33 games during the regular season. 30 starts. First season with LAG. 30 goal contributions during the 2024 campaign, ranks tied for the 6th most in MLS history among all players in their first season in the league. 21 goal contributions at home at 11 and 10. Ranked 2nd amongst all players in MLS this season, behind some guy named Messi, who was 24 and 13. Peck finished the season ranked 2nd amongst all players in MLS in shots on target, 58. 3rd in league in shots taken at 126. Tied for 8th overall in both goals scored and assists at 16 and 14. So the breakdown in the percentages. Media vote, almost half of them, 49.6% voted Peck. Player vote, almost 34%. Club vote, 29%. Average vote, 37.5%. Luis Suarez on Newcomer of the Year, 27.63%. Luca Orejano finished at 12.5%. So that's the numbers. Gabriel Peck wins media vote, player vote, club vote. 37.5% of the vote goes to Gabriel Peck. And so Gabriel Peck is your newcomer of the year in Major League Soccer. No real surprise. Obviously, Major League Soccer is going to be trickling out these awards as we go and all these things that are named in short order. But yeah, Gabriel Peck has been named newcomer of the year. Once again, no real surprise when it comes to Major League Soccer and what's going on. A couple of other things going on around the planet. We'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo and what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. We'll play this sound tomorrow. But Vanni Sartini, who should be preserved and protected under all circumstances, goes in after the win last night against LAFC 3-0 at BC Place. So that's going to be a game 3. Quote, "You're always busting my balls because I never won a playoff game. Now I've won 2, end quote." We'll get that sound and we'll play it for you tomorrow. That's pretty funny. But that's Vanni. Ruben Amorim confirms he was never close to joining West Ham. Went to England, but I didn't go to negotiate, only to meet the owner. I had made my decision to stay. If you think I wanted to leave last year, there's nothing I can do about it. And so that was the note from Ruben Amorim when it came to his chasing after a new gig outside of Portugal last year. Wasn't by West Ham standards. Apparently, the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote looks like they're chasing after Mo Salah so he can play in the Club World Cup against Messi. So that seems to be a plan. Ben Jacobs has revealed an interesting party is swarming, and it's Al Hilal. Saudi Football Federation will be taking FIFA up on this so-called exceptional window ahead of the Club World Cup. So they could, in theory, try and sign Salah between June 1 and 10, which means they're looking at him for not just the Pro League, but for the Club World Cup. Current Liverpool contract expires in June. Rejected a £150 million bid from Al Ittihad back in September of 2023. Al Hilal also keen on it at the time. TalkSport reported in April that Liverpool bracing themselves for another offer, no deal materialized over the summer. And so now Al Hilal have not given up on their pursuit. Quote, Jacobs, all signs are Saudi are going to come back in, and if Salah is a free agent, then naturally he can get a bigger sign-on fee. Liverpool want him to renew. Saudi pushing hard. The league sporting director, Michael Emanalo, who has a good relationship with Mo Salah, is leading the drive. So the only thing that's really changed is it goes from Al Ittihad to Al Hilal. Expectation is that Saudi will make a big push. Another expectation is that the TV rights will change to country-specific in certain territories. One of those territories is Egypt. So as a result, if Salah joins, it's also about a return on investment because Egypt will have specific country rights. And with Salah there, you would expect the league to be able to bring in a relatively lucrative deal. Salah to Saudi remains on the cards. Al Hilal, the most likely destination with the Club World Cup in mind. So that is the note on Mo Salah. Valencia has asked for another delay in a match. Their Copa del Rey match upcoming with Parla Escuela. They're asking for it to be delayed today because of the flooding in the region. From Agence France Presse, at least 217 people died, many more still missing after an intense storm hit the east of Spain last week. The Copa del Rey match, originally scheduled due to be played last week, pushed back to November 6 by the Fed. Spanish club's La Liga match, due to be played last Saturday against Real Madrid, was also postponed, and Los Che asked the club to delay their cup match again. Valencia issued a statement. Several coaches and players from the Liga team suggested all fixtures should have been postponed at the weekend instead of only Valencia's match and Villarreal's match against Rayo Vallecano. Diego Simeone said it made no sense to play matches, while Hansi Flick said it was up to him. If it was up to him, he would have canceled the whole round of matches. And so Carlo Ancelotti was like, no one wanted to play after the floods. And so everybody did but 2 matches. From our friend Johannes Schneider with Atlanta United's media relations, the man who has all of your stat bombs that come across, hopefully, your social media feed. Xande Silva now has 3 career playoff goals for Atlanta United, tied for second most in club history. Joseph Martinez with 5, and playoff Franco Escobar has 3. Pedro Amador, Hawkeye himself, is now tied for first with Brooks Lennon for career playoff assists. both now have 3. So Hawkeye and Brooks Lennon, they now each have 3. I think that nickname has now stuck with me. So update on what's going on with Adu. It is, according to Ben Jacobs, one of the key points attracting Adu to the Marinakis project is control. Like Michael Edwards at FSG, Fenway Sports Group, Adu will take on a CEO of football type role, title to be determined, and have the ability to lead on adding clubs. And that comes from Sammy Muckbelt, the 4-letter paper, who broke the story on that. So in a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see if that is in fact where he is heading. But all of the tea leaves being read are leaning to Adu being a football, the CEO of football for the Evangelinas Marinakis group of clubs, everything under that umbrella, which includes Nottingham Forest. So it would be interesting to see how this lays itself out there. I'm trying to see what other things are out there in the planet. The Jose Mourinho. It turned into an 8-minute rant. I initially was going to see, if I could try and find it, but I'm just going to go with the greatest hits with what Ben Jacobs, once again, at Jacobs been on the 280 character app. He has been part and parcel to all of this. Jarrett's going to come in here for the final couple of minutes as we go. But let me find this one thing from Ben Jacobs about Jose Mourinho. And I will break it down because, okay, so here's the statement. And literally, this is part of this 8-minute rant that he had. So Fenerbahce, I'll just go ahead and bring Jarrett in here while I read this. So shocking no one, it looks like Jose Mourinho is trying to get canned from his gig in Turkey. So here's the part of what he said. And I watched this match. Mourinho says the system, in quotation marks, is against Fenerbahce after their win at Trabzonspor, reveals he was only told half-truths about alleged corruption before taking the job. Quote, I know what I was told even before I came. I didn't believe it, but it's even worse than I was told. We're playing against a system, and that's the most difficult thing. Tonight we played against a strong team, VAR, and the system. VAR was having Turkish tea when it was a clear penalty for us. He was sleeping or was drinking the tea, and he didn't see it. That's why we celebrated so much, because it's unbelievable to get a victory against so many powerful people. I blame the Fenerbahce people that brought me here. They told me only half of the truth. If they told me the whole truth, I would not have come. End quote. Merry New Year to all of y'all folks. So Jose Mourinho, Jarrett, looks like he's already trying to get canned from his gig in Turkey.
That's a lot of words just to basically have a Paul Feinbaum phone call.
Oh,
that's what he did. The man went to a reporter and basically pulled a post-Bama loss Feinbaum call.
Uh-huh. That's strike one, Paul. I mean, right now,
Taylor DeBoer's wearing a T-shirt on the sideline. That's why we struggle, Paul.
10 matches in, they're 5 points behind Galatasaray. Galatasaray is unbeaten, and Galatasaray is 28 points. Fenerbahce is at 23. So Mourinho is second in the league, 5 points behind Galatasaray, and 10 matches into a season of So 18 times 2, 36. So he's not even a third of the way into his season, and he looks like he's already trying to get canned from his gig. Since you are here, sir, we played some of the sound from the locker room. We played a lot of sound from the locker room. Who am I kidding? Played Dax with the discussion that you guys had. Bart and Jay Fortune, DW, Ronald and Jay Fortune. So the six and playoff Shonda Silva. So six folks that you and Maddie chased after the match, where Atlanta United lives to fight another day, and it's going to be Saturday night prime time at the Erector Set in Fort Lauderdale.
And all the pressure's on Miami to not embarrass themselves.
Yes.
Because look, the Eastern Conference is already kind of a slap fight.
Yes.
because you already had Columbus go out.
Yes, we haven't even really
You know.
gotten into what happened on the weekend.
Yeah, so Columbus is gone. And now you have the team that set the points record still favored. Like, let's be honest about this.
Mm-hmm.
As good as we feel about it, Miami's going to be the favorite in Game 3.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, there's a chance that, Atlanta goes into that game and gets popped. Like, just like gets chased around the ring and gets squashed.
Mm-hmm.
Entirely possible. Don't ever let anyone take away from what they've done in the last few weeks, though, because the ride has been an absolute joy with this team. But all the pressure in that game is going to be on Miami. And what we said about Game 1 applies even more so here, and what we said about Montreal applies even more so here. The longer that game goes scoreless or tied in however which way it is tied, usually goalless.
Yep.
Or 1-1, 2-2, whatever the hell they want to unfold upon the world.
Yep.
The longer that stays without Miami in front, the tighter they're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Especially those young players that are out there with those veterans.
I mean, but even the veterans, who are very, very good, are still also, having to manage their bodies and manage the moments. And, yeah, like Miami wants to boat race you.
Yeah.
They want to play a Big 12 game.
Yep.
Which is fine. I'm good with that. I think it's highly entertaining. But they want to play basically a Big 12 game against you. And if you don't let them play a Big 12 game, then to belabor the analogy back to like the late aughts, early 20, like the late aughts, call it what it is.
Sure.
If you would drag some of those Big 12 teams into the SEC games, they weren't going to throw punch counterpunch the same way they could. They weren't built to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not built to win a close game. Can they do it? Yeah. Is this me saying they can't win a one-goal game? Of course they can. They're very talented. They didn't set a points record on accident.
No.
But they're going to get tight. They're going to get scrambly, and it's going to be weird if you get another, close late game in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And Atlanta very much has been, and I imagine will keep playing this loose, we got nothing to lose. We already made our money back at the casino kind of mentality. They just can't lose that mentality.
Yep. And since you mentioned right now, the early numbers are out. Early juice boxes are out. And no real surprise. Messi and friends were minus 244. 90-minute draws a plus 420. Atlanta United to win on the road right now on the composite is a plus 548. FC Cincinnati favored at home at a minus 119.
I would take that 548 number just on principle.
Oh, absolutely.
Just mostly because Dax talked about it, and I don't know if y'all heard it in the sound, if it was played in the sound or not, but Dax has been in this league, since Christ was a corporal. And he talked about it. He said, you see it all the time. These teams that get hot at the end of the season, and it just becomes a matter of form over overall quality sometimes.
Yeah.
And quality is going to win out, but we do this crap in baseball and basketball and hockey all the damn time, John, where that team isn't as good as us. Yeah, but they're hot and no one wants to deal with them right now.
Nope.
And Atlanta kind of has that about themselves, mostly because, and look, they got away with some ish Saturday night. There was a couple chances that they got away with. They're living right. And when you have everyone fighting for each other and you're living right,
yep,
and you're taking advantage of chances, no one wants to play that team.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, I know you're going through the numbers here. I apologize.
No, it's all good. We did not go into really the other matchups on the weekend. kind of start that, and we'll get into it more tomorrow. But the match day threes coming up Friday night late. LASC's a minus 200, having to host Vanni Sartini and the Whitecaps, who won 3-0. FC Cincinnati's a minus 119 at home, hosting NYC. Purple Team's a minus 118 at home, hosting Charlotte. What happened yesterday, you had – we kind of got into it a little bit in the discussions of everything, but not really, more from a refereeing perspective with Bart. Seattle in Pens advances, beating Houston. We talked about Ache and his moment of just general stupidity. And Red Bulls in Pens going north of 5 attempts to take Crew out 2-2 and winning in north of, I think it was 6. I think it was a 6 frame by the time it was done. But, yeah, so you end up with a lot of brackets getting busted with Columbus going away. And Houston, for the second match in a row, finished the match with 10. You got to see what Coco Carrasquilla meant to them, and Ben Olsen had to adjust. But then you had another moment of madness, and Houston finishes with 10, losing that one 2-1. So Minnesota on the weekend over RSL.
They lost it in the shootout. Give them credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it carried it through, losing in the shootout. And Stephen Fry made a couple of big saves when he needed to. Minnesota, once again, Dane St. Clair in penalties comes through. And they had a lot of RSL misses as well. They were the late game on Saturday. They go 2-1. They advance. NYC flipped the script on Cincy and won 3-1 at Citi Field, because they sure as hell weren't playing at Yankee Stadium either, but you got to play at Citi Field. So my bracket got busted, Jared. I don't know about yours, with the loss by Columbus.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't make a formal bracket this year, but yeah, you expected Columbus to be there. Red Bulls game is weird. They got what they needed. They were scrappy. This Red Bulls team was 2 different teams this year, though, John.
Yes.
The first half of the season, when Emil Forsberg was doing Emil Forsberg things, they were great.
Yep.
When he's not there, they were bad.
Correct.
Like, horrific.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of a as he goes, they go kind of thing, man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so we'll have the whole week to talk about it. Tomorrow, we'll go through all the other matchups in MLS, go through the news of the morning. Hour number 2, Mark Denny, the GM at North Texas SC, is going to join us to talk about the Western Conference perspective on the MLS Next Cup final. And then Keeler Hodges joins us at 10:30 to talk about everything going on in USL Championship. Tonight on the MLS Monday over at Scarves and Spikes, some guy named Longshore is going to be joining them at 7 o'clock to talk about anything and everything going on with all the other matchups. Tyler, as a part of the exchange program, will be with us Wednesday, as he always is, at 9:15. And if we can track down the busiest man in the Northeast, and Dylan Butler, catch up with him at 10, one of the busiest folks around on the planet, especially when it comes to USL Super League and college soccer. Marion Crowder, see if we can get her at 10:30. Thursday, the Power Hour at 10 and 10:30 with Nino and Nico. We'll talk about Nino's Universitario as they won a title. Wasn't as screwy as we thought it might be. And then Friday, we'll get you ready for everything going on involving Inter Miami, Atlanta, and everything else on the weekend. Get you ready for all the activity there. So that's Monday. And so that means we'll be back in a little less than 22. Jarrett, sir, since you are here, go ahead and send us home.
Mucha platia.
What he said. It's a full match week. See you tomorrow.